Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. The topic is professional services, navigating uncertainty with analytics and AI. Now, this is primarily focused at professional services firms, typically companies that have a lot of skills, a lot of good people, and their primary business is around utilizing the capabilities of consultants, of staff who deliver services to customers. This is an age-old industry, and it's kind of seen a lot of ups and downs. But professional services is here to stay. Typically, companies in the legal space, in IT services, and engineering services, they all have certain unique characteristics. And today we have three, I'll call it as eminent, highly experienced executives, people who've been there, done that. And all of them have been CFOs. That's unique because CFOs usually are in the center of attention in terms of knowing what's happening in the business. But they often stay at the background, but they usually do all the navigating of the business from the back. So I thought that they're the ones who probably should represent and present themselves in terms of expanding this topic. And I'll do one thing. I'll leave it to them to introduce themselves. I first asked Mr. Krishnan, who has over 30 years of experience in professional services in companies like Hewlett Packard and others. So I'll leave it to him. Mr. Krishnan, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm excited to be here. My name is Krishnan Subramanian. During my professional career, 30 plus years, 25 plus years with Hewlett Packard, I managed one of the largest professional services business of Hewlett Packard. It's close to $1 billion revenue. I had the privilege of working with some of the senior professionals across the globe. My last tenure with Qualcomm Corporation, which was professional services mostly on the BPO sector. This is close to a $500 million revenue. I interacted with 7 countries. I am happy to share my experience working as a CFO and professional services firm with this audience. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Habib. Habib is the CFO of Procogia. Procogia is our customer too. And Habib's worked in Goldman Sachs and a lot of other companies. So Habib, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, George. And good morning, everyone. Good morning, evening, and good night in some part of the world. Thank you for organizing this session, George. And I'm Habib. I'm based out of Vancouver, but currently I'm in India for a vacation. And I've been a part of the finance industry for over 17 years now. The first half of my career, I was more an auditor, but currently I'm focusing more on managing financial resources, optimizing financial performance, and making strategic decisions for our company. I've worked with a bunch of employers. As George mentioned, I started my career. Krishnan, this is just a coincidence that even I started my career with Hewlett Packard, and then I worked with other employers like Goldman Sachs, Grant Thornton, Manpower Group. At present, I work for a Vancouver-based professional services company as a vice president, finance and operations. And I just want to thank George for organizing this session because at some point, like others, I will be very curious to understand more about the product that he's been very excited about and how this product will help all of us in terms of making more data-driven decisions. And yeah, looking forward to hearing from other experienced speakers as well.
Next is SJ. SJ, I leave it to you to pronounce your name so that I don't get it wrong. And he's been an experienced CFO, worked in a number of professional services company, also Vancouver-based. SJ, go ahead.
Sure thing. My name is SJ. Full name is Seungjoo, but SJ is good enough for me. I'm a CPA CA here in Vancouver. I've been involved with a variety of different businesses from transportation to tech, fintech, biotech, clean tech, and of course, professional services, even dental networks and retail, mass retail, from startups to multi-billion-dollar companies. I've been like head of finance as a startup and head of finance at a international company leading international teams. And I am also on a board for nonprofit that we're growing it to be multi-million-dollar board, multi-million-dollar organization. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about some of the exciting yet scary metrics that are coming out and how to manage the business environment, how to navigate through this current climate that is fairly difficult and uncharted.
Yeah. So just before we start, I just thought we'll do some housekeeping. We intend to go with some panel discussions for about 30 minutes. To that extent, the attendees' mics have been muted. We'll open it up at that point in time so we can have discussions. There is a Q&A button on top. You could click on it and type in questions that you want, and we will try and focus on those questions that you raise during these while we have the session. I should say that it's good to see 30 people here, and I can see people from the East Coast, West Coast, and I can see someone from Aju's there from UK. I'm seeing people from India. Great to see a sort of a global presence in this. It's a universal problem, I say. We are navigating uncertainty in professional services, but professional services have been through ups and downs. So the first question to the panelists is about the choice of analytics and metrics. I'm differentiating between reports and metrics, because reports is something that you can change. It comes out, whereas metrics is what you track over a period of time. It's what your senior management is focused on. So the first question is, what are the most important metrics that you typically see in a professional services firm that makes the most meaning in terms of when you give it to the senior management? What is it that they like to see the most? What is that in your experience?
Yeah. So let me go first. Between the two big companies, one is the Hewlett-Packard, multi-billion-dollar business. They had several services, product business, and then the Qualcomm, which is a mid-sized company on the BPO call center services. The most important metrics we want to track is the revenue growth. We say take care of the top line growth, stuff the thing will follow through. So the revenue growth is the most important metric in Hewlett-Packard and any other companies, all business units that I work with, we were focusing on. Apart from the revenue growth, the most important thing is the gross margin. Yes, net margin is important, but however, gross margin is the most important, at least the initial stages. The third one is the cash flow. Cash flow, whether you are managing your cash effectively, ROI analysis, or whether through DSO, managing your DSO or DPO. So the cash flow metrics is one of the most important. And there are several other metrics, but I would say in my mind, any company, these metrics are most important. And there are other metrics are important based on the specific industry or the business they are in.
And I think I can add that on top of these metrics, and to improve those metrics, we can get down to the detail. So especially during these times, we could be looking at retention rate, we could be looking at the lifetime value of the customers, we could be looking at the CAC, and of course, even the customer acquisition time. And we also want to look at our NPS, customer satisfaction scores and things like that to ensure that our customers are happy, that we can manage our churn rate. Because if you look at things like NPS, we can have a good idea, especially if we have enough data set, whether some of the customers are about to churn, and we can try to preempt it. Again, assuming we have the data to determine in the past what were the risk factors, was it NPS score or some other factors underlying in the entire industry. And of course, in the uncertainty, the metrics that you look at may change rapidly. For example, if you are in an unfortunate situation, you have only 6 months of operating cash left, and you have a CAC payback period of 12 months, that's something you need to manage. You need to switch around your business to see if you can shorten that CAC payback period. Because again, if you only have 6 months of operating cash left, acquiring a new customer that has a payback period of 12 months is going to be detrimental to your cash flow in the short term. It will kill your business. So you need to keep an eye on it, and you need to start segmenting the customer base to see, okay, which of the customers have shorter than 6 months of CAC payback period. Don't go for the ones that are 12 months or longer or 6 months or longer, because you won't see that payback if your company cannot operate beyond the 6 months. So it really depends. And yeah.
And I would just like to add on to what SJ and Krishnan mentioned. Now, I think at some point, most organizations have reached a point where they pretty much have some metrics which enable them to make decisions. And typically in our organization, the way we divide it is with the analogy of the windshield versus the rear view metrics. Now, we all have the windshield metrics, which is, okay, what is my budget versus actual as of a certain date? I have my quarterly numbers, I have my half-yearly numbers, I have my gross margins, I have my profit margins. But for smaller organizations or small, medium enterprises, I think one key factor which kind of is a game changer for them is the forward-looking, the futuristic numbers, forecasts. How accurately can we forecast in terms of where the organization would be 6 months down the line with the current run rate? And is there anything we need to do immediately to make sure that we are taking it into the direction that we want to? So forward-looking numbers have become very critical, especially for smaller organizations where the bandwidth is so small that you have to operate within a certain rigidity and certain budgeted allocations that have been made.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. That was certainly insightful. And I just, thought I'll just dwell a little more on this because the topic is all about metrics. And the question really is about, since we're talking about professional services firms, what are some of the metrics specific to professional services firms? I mean, that is, unique to this, because whatever was discussed, apart from what SJ mentioned in terms of, let's say, the CAC, et cetera, which are typically SaaS type metrics, and it's applicable for everyone. But professional services firm, what's special? What's unique? Can you tell some of these? Yeah.
Yeah. So on the professional services, I think, you hit a valid point. The professional services, the most important metrics is the people related, it's attrition. The other one is it's a utilization. In some part of the world, it's called the productivity, the utilization out of the total resources, what percentage of resources are billable, and then the duration of the non-billable resources. It's also called, in some cases, it's called bench. The more you utilize the resources, the more revenue generating resources you have in the team, the better on the margin point of view. So those are some of the metrics on productivity, utilization, bench. Then the other metrics are like SJ mentioned, is the customer retention. The more you sign the long-term contracts, you are able to retain the same customers. That helps. There are, again, of course, other metrics from the customer satisfaction, CSAT scores. Those metrics are important as well. These are some of the metrics. Anything related to the people, anything related to the customer, those metrics are more important than the rest.
Yeah, I mean, Habib, you've been in operations also. You see your designations as finance and operations also. So what do you see on that side of business?
So, I kind of echo what Krishnan mentioned, because anybody who's a part of the professional services, I think the bench management becomes so important. Some of the metrics, in the past, bench was looked at as a standalone component in your overall income statement, wherever it fit. But today it's become a more comprehensive topic in terms of like, okay, how do I correlate my bench with my sales pipeline? What is the probability of my sales pipeline? Let's say if the probability is higher than X percentage of that probability is my bench. If the probability is lower, it further comes down. So, in terms of bench management, customer acquisition costs, what are my margins, gross margins, operating profit margins, and what are my indirect costs, and what is the percentage of my indirect cost to the overall top line growth? How do we make sure that we operate at a certain industry benchmark profitability if you want to stay competitive in the market? These are all good tricks, and I think for the most part, most professional firms have these standard 10-15 metrics that they look at, which is all about top line and bottom line and profitabilities. Especially in smaller organization, especially if you are an in-house funded organization, you would be less concerned about debt to equity and the other ratios. It wouldn't matter so much. It would be more about what has an impact on your day-to-day operations. And as SJ and Krishnan mentioned, cash flow becomes a very, very important part of the overall decision making, because you're operating with so much limited bandwidth that you need to be very tight on your DSO. You need to be very good with your collections. You need to make sure your AR is tracked in a timely manner. The follow-ups are there. So yeah, overall, I would just say that it would be revenue growth, budget, budget versus actuals. Where is the leakage? What are the operating margins? Cash flow. These are the 5-6 top metrics that I would look at.
Wow, that is really good. And may I ask all of you, if possible, yeah, I mean, you've been in many companies, any kind of war stories, I should say, where you tracked a particular metric and that led to some changes in the company, if it's not confidential. Yeah, it would be nice to know if any.
I could share one.
Oh, nice. Okay, great.
This was a startup. It wasn't exactly professional services, but it was a SaaS. So it is services, right? It's just technical services to replace some of the in-house staff. Before I joined, they had a model that showed that one CS, so customer success person, can support anywhere from 20 to 30 customers. When we actually launched the product, 2 CS staff struggled with 7 customers. So that was way off. And then they started saying, okay, well, we need to increase the CS, started posting jobs. And I said, whoa, hold on a sec. Let's put the new numbers to the model. At that rate of support, we were never going to be profitable. It was a case of the more customers we add, the more we would lose. So I actually pumped the brakes. I was a CFO and I said, no, you cannot do this, because this is a financial model presented to not just the head of product, the head of CS and the tech and the CEO, but to the board, to the chairman, and say, we need to stop getting new customers. We need to fix the product because there's something wrong here. The way we operate, the way the technology is, it's so well, I wouldn't say gimmicky, but it had so many issues that it required heavy support. This is a metric. We will never be profitable if we go forward. Pivot now before it's too late. And they did pivot. They actually stopped acquiring new customers and they went back to the drawing board to see what the issues were with the product.
Nice.
Yep. And even I would like to just talk about one very recent experience that we've had, and I think I just kind of briefly touched on this a little while ago. And anybody been a part of the professional service environment know that how critical and how crucial the bench becomes. And I just want to share one small experience that we had in the past. Now, sometime a few years ago, we mismanaged our bench, and this resulted in massive cost overruns. And then we were, we went back to the data and we were like, what is it that we are not doing right here? Because we were looking at this as only a standalone component. Okay, these are my budgeted numbers. These are my actuals. Okay, there is a variance. What is the reason for variance? That's all the approach was. But we figured out a few years ago when I joined the organization that, hey, you know what, we need to look at this more comprehensively. And what are the different factors that play into this? It's not just about your bench or staff utilization. It is, you need to have more associated layers to this. And when I say associated layers, what do I mean? It's like, okay, what does my sales pipeline look like? What is the probability of my sales pipeline? what are the different government wage subsidies and government grants that are out there which can be utilized for this bench management? What are the in-house in R&D projects I'm looking at which have long-term returns, which probably may not give you an immediate ROI, but it is a good investment in the long term. So when you factor in all this, and we actually brought in these factors in our reporting, and it will surprise you that this actually had an overall impact of 3 to 4% on our operating profit.
Wow,
That's awesome.
that's really awesome. Thanks, Habib, for that. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have time for more war stories, but I think time to get to the next topic, which was essentially, to get metrics, it's hard. I mean, it may get it one time, but you get it month on month or period on period is hard. And usually it depends on tech. It depends on software, it depends on underlying platforms, etc. So I just like each of you to share your thoughts on how do you get these metrics? What are your experiences in that?
I would say at the high level, keep it simple, right? Communicate it very clearly, not only to the finance team, as also to the business and then your stakeholders. You have to communicate what you expect, when do you expect, what form you expect, and then clearly have some standard forms. We have to have some rules, house rules. You cannot change the format. You have to enter only in some of the color-coded columns. Because this happens all the time, especially when you are working with multi-countries, multi-business units. If it is not in the standard tools, in most of the companies, we still continue to use Excel. People have to follow the rules. Otherwise, I think it will be a nightmare for the person in the headquarters sitting and consolidating. I've been in that position. I will get everything 11 p.m. midnight. I will start working on it. I was hoping that I can go to bed at 12, but I'll be still working at 4 o'clock to meet a 6 o'clock deadline. I think that it's setting some rules, templates, instructions, understanding is more important.
Interesting.
And I would just like to add on to that. In terms of data, I think the larger organizations are still fine because they have the budget to have the necessary tools and resources to maintain it in a very standardized manner. But the struggle is mostly with the small organization where it's a lot of manual work, and standardizing that, and kind of implementing certain consistent practices and procedures and making sure that there is more discipline in terms of managing this has always been a challenge, primarily because you don't have the financial resources to invest in technology or tools. Second is you have a limitation on the headcounts that you can employ to do this. So therefore, it becomes a nightmare for people who are looking at organizing the data in a way which gives you the desired output. But that is all changing now because there are some tools which are not which are very cost effective in the market, and that has helped in terms of streamlining the data management.
Yes, I echo the sentiment of managing data. Larger companies, they tend to have better data governance, how the data is collected, stored, and processed, and how they are aggregated and used. Doesn't mean they're perfect, but smaller companies struggle way more with it just because there are different teams inputting different things, and they may not even have the basic data governance structure, such as don't go and change what you put in the past if it has already been put into a report. CRM is a big one that I see that finance would love to have better oversight over, so that we can control the CAC, LTV, and the pipeline, have a better visibility of the pipeline, because the sales and marketing pipeline determines our forecast for future revenues and future customer acquisitions. But these things are usually not that well managed because sales and marketing teams may not see much value in it. So there's a lot of room for collaboration to try to get there and get their buy-in. And of course, different systems and not knowing how each systems are supposed to be integrated when you don't have the resources in-house tech person to do so, that becomes a challenge. So there's definitely a need in the market for a easier tool to implement that can be managed in-house, low cost of deployment and quick, easy use month after month.
And
Yep.
George, if you allow me, very recently, George and our company collaborated on a very small project, and he had first-hand experience of how the data is managed in, so to say, small medium enterprises. And trust me, it took us a long time to just clean up the data. And George, you can be first-hand, kind of vouch for this, what the statements I'm making here, because you had that experience yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it happens in almost all organizations. So data is hard to get, and data, especially consistent data across periods, is tough to get and requires more of discipline. But yeah, I guess the underlying, I mean, my thoughts on this, if I may add, is that it's primarily coming because there are multiple best of breed systems running in most companies. You have a CRM that's running, you have a payroll that's running, you have a HR that's running, you have a time sheeting system that's running, project tracking, and all of these are good tools. And end of the day, what matters suffers is really the metrics. So essentially, it's not that the data is not there, just getting it cleaned up and getting it pulled together at the right time so that it's then available and makes meaning is really tough. And anyway, it's a great experience working at Procogia, Habib, to sort that out, and I hope it be helped. Okay. So and I just wanted to go a little more in terms of tools, in terms of any other striking tools that you see out there in the market that you're using quite frequently. Just a quick rundown of what are the tools you're quite happy with. Any thoughts on that, Krishnan or SJ?
Ooh, I've used like Adaptive Insights. There's been a couple of marketing-based tools that pull in finance data. And then there's, of course, the classic dashboards, Power BI, ClickSense, ClickView, and ClickUp. And there are several. They all tend to take a lot of time to implement. It takes several months usually to work with various different teams in-house, and it becomes such a burden on the teams to try to automate it. And even then, the results vary depending on who helped you implement and whether the people in-house that were there at the project, do they stick around? So I can't say I support one of those ones that I mentioned. They're good tools for what they are. They're far from perfect.
Yeah. Good.
I can go next.
I will. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Krishnan.
No, I will pretty much echo what SJ said. You cannot. There are several. You cannot vouch for one versus other, depending on your preferences and affordability, and then what suits for your environment. Because the key is at the high level, decide what you need, and then if you need something at the project accounting level, at the customer level, then there are tools available. If you really want to manage it at the high level, Excel, Power BI, those things are good enough. But if you definitely need more important deep dive critical data at the customer level, then there are tools available. But the most important thing is, I think as a company, as an organization, you should decide what you need, what you can afford. One thing, the tools comes up with, like SJ said, implementation time. Then whether it's user friendly. The third one is interface with some of the other systems. You may have a best tool, but if you don't interface with other systems and tools, you will still end up doing a lot of these things in the Excel in the backend. That is not very productive.
Absolutely. I completely agree with SJ and Krishnan. And, I've had the experience with a couple of tools. In the past, I've worked with NetSuite, which is a very good tool by itself. Then, but that's slightly on the higher cost side. And then you have QuickBooks, which is more suitable for medium-sized enterprises. And I think QuickBooks is a very good tool. It's the general ledger system. and you have a lot of inbuilt functionality which can even, do the dashboards for you. In addition to that, as SJ mentioned, we have project management tools like ClickUp, which are all these can be interfaced with one another. So that's very, very helpful, especially in terms of where you want to automate. But overall, I do believe that I think depending on the size of the company and what your needs are, if you actually do a cost versus benefit analysis, then for smaller organization, it will be primarily be Power BI, Excel, and very, so to say, basic general ledger systems.
Excel's just quick. It's dirty. It's manual,
Yeah.
error prone, human error prone.
Mhm.
But man, it is the quickest tool when someone says, give me a customized report or analysis on this. You're not going to do it in some fancy software. You're like, as finance, we're going to go straight to Excel.
Yeah, yeah. I think Krishnan once mentioned we love
I was
Excel and we love Excel and you hate Excel.
Hate Excel. I remember
Yeah.
I remember a joke. I attended a job interview 30 years ago. During the thing, are you automated? I said yes. What are you using? Excel. Probably I would answer the same question even now. Are you automated? Yes. Are you what tools you are using? Excel. Yeah,
Okay,
we love to hate.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, hate probably the accuracy and
Yeah,
changeability and all that. Yes.
exactly.
All right. So I think for the rest of the webinar, we're going to get into some very interesting topics, especially what's going to happen with AI and stuff like that, and role of CFO and all that. But before that, I'm sure the audience wouldn't mind a short 2-minute, break in terms of showing, what we are coming up with a product to called Smart Metrics, and the essential aim is to solve a lot of the problems that smaller firms in professional services have. So I think I'll just give us 2 minutes to show this video, and then we'll get back to the conversation immediately afterwards. I'm just sharing my screen and I'm going into that. Yeah. So by the way, I hope you're seeing the screen, and this is actually Smart Metrics, Stragiliti Smart Metrics, and I'm playing the video that's available on our website itself, and this is the one.
Smart Metrics empowers professional services firms to automate their management reports, visualizations, KPIs, and metrics in-house without coding. With in-depth, accurate, and timely analytics, professional services firms can now continuously find new ways to grow and reduce waste. Mid-sized and smaller firms have a challenge. Currently available options for good quality analytics are too expensive. ERPs or professional services automation software are disruptive and expensive, and so they are forced to fall back to using Excel and other manual methods to extract and summarize data. Tools like Tableau and Power BI help to deliver good visualizations, but they require costly consultants to develop and maintain. Smart Metrics provides an innovative yet affordable alternative. You only need to configure your organization's structure and upload data in spreadsheets to get processed aggregated data by period, which forms the basis of the analytics you need. Smart Metrics provides over 100 visualizations that are meaningful and actionable to the specific needs of mid and smaller sized professional service and tech firms. You can choose what is relevant and important from over 1,000 combinations of KPIs. These metrics and KPIs provided have been designed by experienced experts with inputs from key industry users of such analytics. These best practice visualizations enable quick results to management through better decisions that contribute directly to the top and bottom line. Currently available systems involve a lot of complexity in extracting, cleaning, ingesting, and loading the data from multiple applications like accounting, CRM, payroll, timesheets, project tracking, and HR. Once loaded, considerable effort is needed to ensure that they are available for forecasting, budgeting, and review of performance against actuals. Smart Metrics simplifies this process considerably with simple predefined loading templates, automatic data loading pipelines, and pre-designed visualizations specific to professional and technology services. The net result is a competitively priced, low-disruption implementation of the analytics and reporting needed. Smart Metrics has powerful and actionable dashboards and visualizations that bring immediate results. Metrics that are often hard to bring out, like margin analysis by service line, region, or client, are now possible. You can slice results by various entities like service lines, regions, legal entities, or departments, and obtain variants of the data for trend analytics. Comparison reports against budgets and notifications against preset limits help review and track progress of KPIs or OKRs assigned to team members. Smart Metrics has a strong roadmap for AI/ML adoption, which will then leverage the powerful AI tools that are being released in the market. If you would like a personalized session with one of our senior consultants on your reporting or analytics needs, do get in touch with us using the web address given above. Smart Metrics is a part of the software suite for professional services firms from Kalos Technologies, covering a number of areas like contracts and billing, quote automation, objectives and key results, and low-code rapid application development.
Yeah, thank you for that, and yeah, I'll just continue on the webinar, and I'll just get to the next topic, which is essentially around AI. Okay, but before we go to AI, I mean, I just thought I'd also mention that if anyone's interested in our product, do ping me. I think we will definitely respond in terms of understanding what you need and providing a solution. Yeah, so the next topic is about AI. I just leave it to you. What do you think will happen? There's a lot of things people are talking about. AI is supposed to change the world, but I just thought we'll get practical. How is it going to affect us in terms of professional services and as a CFO?
Yeah. So
I
let
can
me
start.
yeah, go
Actually,
ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay, let me share probably my thoughts. Probably I'm the right person to give inputs on this one. When I started my career, and many of you in this call are very young. Either you were not born or you were still in the school. When I started my career, I started preparing, writing in the manual columnar. It's called columnar books ledger. That's how we started. It's a handwritten journal entries, posting in the old. It's a 286 computer. You can't even get those computers these days in the market. Maybe in museum. It will take hours and hours to process some 100 journal entries to post it, and they get a general ledger trial balance. So from that, we have seen so much advancements in the most recent times, especially anyone who have worked with the ChatGPT. I would say it's mind-boggling. I'm using ChatGPT exclusively for all my communications. In addition to that, you ask any questions, you get answers. You don't have to search through the Google. So I would say, so just a high level, yes, the AI, machine learning, it's already started having a very key, important role in financial reporting and the FP&A reporting. It's continued to evolve, but the one caution is we would still need the senior finance leaders who will make sure that things go okay. I think the manual intervention reviewers, the analysts who will interpret the data, what AI produces, that's going to continue. But at the same time, we cannot ignore the role of AI and ML. That's going to replace many of the core and tasks that are currently performed by human. That's my 2 cents. It's a long one, but that's based on my experience, what I have seen over the past 35 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to add on from my perspective, I always believe that anything that has a fixed outcome, so no matter who does it, as long as each person, they're competent people, and the outcome that you can expect, there's one right outcome, it has a potential to be automated. That doesn't always mean it should be automated, of course. The cost may not be worth it, and you might still do the manual work. This means that a lot of the finance work and some of the data gathering work could be automated. Bookkeeping has already become a lot smarter, right? We upload an invoice, and even QuickBooks Online, the cheapest tool out there, will try to identify the key inputs so that you don't actually have to manually type everything in, and you just have to approve or make adjustments if QuickBooks picked up the wrong line, wrong number, or whatever. But that does not mean that our industry is going to go away. I think our industry is going to become more complex. Just like when they automated cars, it didn't mean that people stopped working at factories. In fact, the car industry just blew up. Finance, same thing. When we started getting better tools, better ERPs, and better integration into other areas like CRM, for example, our role has become more complex and more advanced. So instead of finance being more focused on generating low-level reports or data entry, we are going to become users of all these different tools. And we're going to be the true business partners that we always talk about it, right? Like, no finance person starts their career by saying, I want to be a great bookkeeper. Usually you don't. You want to add value to the business, but we struggle because we had all these other work like report generation, doing manual analysis on Excel and things like that bogs us down. All that I foresee becoming more simplified, and we will have better analytics, better reports, and we get to tell the machine, the new tools, what kind of analysis we want for what purposes, and our value to the organization will continue to grow and expand. And we will probably absorb more data through various different data points to create a true finance business intelligence departments and functions in companies.
I think
Habib, you might be muted.
You're muted. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I was just saying that I would just like to add on to what Krishnan and SJ mentioned, and just so that the audience know, I come from the tech sector, and the services that our company offer is in the same field which George is referring to. We offer services in the field of data science, data engineering, data analytics, artificial intelligence, and which also means that we have in-house talent, which helps us understand how the AI can help streamline data, help with a lot of different automation and giving out us metrics which help in decision making. Now, to this context, I just wanted to add that we have already started using AI in our small little way. So what essentially we've done is that we have coded, we have created an environment and coded in a way where I just upload a set of data, and then it understands all the data patterns, any unusual activities, correlation between different factors that we've designed within the system, within the environment. And the primary objective of doing this entire exercise for us was to identify any fraudulent patterns of behavior. And I can comfortably say that it's working really well at this point. Now, in terms of will this continue to evolve? Yes, I think the more and more desired outputs we want, it can be achieved through a click of button. And currently, we are also working on another aspect, which is predictive financial modeling, which is nothing again but 5 months or 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, based on my historical trends and patterns. How can we make how can we build a correlation between our current data, the past data, and tell us what the future looks like? So all those different parameters, different outcomes that we want is very much possible. And this is only the beginning. It just makes the CFO's life so much more easier when you don't have to rely on individuals versus a system doing it all for you. But again, it has its own problems and it has its own issues. Again, even after all this is done, you still need a human element to make sure that the hygiene is intact. There is, data sanity. So it's a combination of both, I would imagine.
Yeah, let me also add my own 2 cents here, because as a product roadmap, we also need to keep thinking of what's going to happen in AI. And the areas we are focusing on first is exactly what Habib mentioned, which is the forward-looking metrics are the ones that can predict the trailing metrics. So, for example, if you know the forecasts of what's going to happen, and that gets more accurate either through correlations, you know that this is the likely projections based on market factors, then that would in turn affect the delivery metrics, the cash flow metrics, and can that in turn affect help you to predict a cash flow problem, let's say a few months down the line. These are all definitely things that are possible even without the latest versions of AI. I think ML always had that capability, it's just getting better and better. The other thing that I can think of is because Gen AI is getting good, I mean, you can think of a situation fairly soon where the CEO says, look, tell me, how are things looking in terms of, operations? And then a voice comes back saying, this is what it means. And it's essentially going through the data, analyzing it, coming back. It's all within the realms of possibility. And I've been talking to some of the professional services, companies, and some of them say for them, ensuring that the right staff or right talent is deployed for the right projects, to keep in mind the right skill, the right costs. You don't want to send a too senior a consultant for something. That's also an area. So there are a lot of individual areas that people are experimenting on. The list is quite long. And so when all of them come together, I think AI is going to really change the scene. But until then, right now, it's one small step at a time. And I really like what Habib said about, avoiding fraud. That's really another area. Yeah. So any other thoughts on AI from anyone, or shall we get to the next one? Okay. Okay. So I'm just, yeah, go ahead, Ajay. You're on mute. I think you need to unmute yourself.
My apologies. I was going to say, just to add to what Habib and Krishna has already said, predictive modeling, the next stage is prescriptive modeling, right? And we all want to get there, but it's been really hard. And when we did prescriptive modeling, prescriptive essentially saying, hey, the CEO or the founder or the shareholder said we have to get to X EBITDA or whatever, here's a path. It was really difficult for us to give multiple scenarios, let alone just one good scenario that we can stand behind. I feel like with AI, we can give them multiple different scenarios, and every month when we do the update to our goals, we can say, well, this month we had this result, which was a deviation from our prescriptive modeling of 24 months, and therefore these are the options we have to course correct. So that area is going to be very interesting. It's going to take a lot of thinking power of whoever's managing the process, but we're going to add a lot of value when we get there. I say when, not if.
I think we are
one last input is, one thing I like about AI is unbiased opinion based on the facts, right? It will give you straight on your face, whether you like it or not.
That's
really good.
Unemotional, right?
Yeah. Or emotional. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll leave one last quick round of questions related to building a data-driven culture in your organization in terms of decisions. I think a lot of senior management take intuitive decisions, but I think data can change things, and I think a CFO plays a central role in ensuring that things are grounded. So, what are your thoughts, and what have you done to change the culture in your organization? Have you any stories, anything that you have done, to ensure that decisions are taken data-based rather than?
Yeah, I can go first. I've had some recent experiences, and when I was an auditor, I've seen a lot of financial reports of many clients, and it's not like a one size fits all kind of a situation, right? Therefore, different reports are available during different times of uncertainties and based on the size of company, industry, and so on. But in the recent times, I think there has been a lot of stress on we need good data. We need data to be sliced and diced to the extent possible to make the best decision for the organization. And this prompted us now, before we make a decision, now typically what we do is, especially if it is a decision which has a significant impact on either the top line or the bottom line, what we do is we have started a new initiative called stress testing, which is nothing but developing simulations in terms of like, what would the situation be if we take a conservative approach? What would the situation be if we take a little optimistic approach? What would be the situation be if we look at if we model it to extreme scenarios or adverse conditions to assess its vulnerabilities? So in that context, I think I don't know how other organizations are operating, but at least in my own network, I see that a lot of different scenario testing, a lot of different simulations have been put to test, and a lot of models have been developed to see what is the overall impact on your income statement. And I think that's a starting point. Of course, a lot of other factors also play in the behavioral aspects, the external forces, and so on. But I think that's pretty much what we've been experiencing right now.
I think the key is to convince all the parties involved, all the departments, that the data accuracy, the data, the collection, and the speed of collection, all that has a material impact on the entire business as a whole and their own work. Without that buy-in, you're going to be working with garbage data, pretty much what Habib has already identified. We do struggle with it oftentimes to try to sell them on, okay, if you give us good data, these are the things that we can do for you. And partially that's because we take so much time to process that data, and there's always speed bumps and issues that come up along the way. If we can get there where we have great data strategy and the right tools to use that data, then we can showcase that value and eventually get to a place where everyone's being objective, as Krishnan said, less emotional decision, more objective. Here's what the numbers say. Let's do what the numbers say, not what individual egos or biases say.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I think we've.
I think I will definitely add to what both SJ and Habib said. The data ownership, it's no longer a finance responsibility. Everyone in the company should own the data, should be responsible for the quality, accuracy, timeliness of the data for a collective decision making.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone. I actually will leave it open for Q&A. Actually, the intent was if there are any questions to put it in the Q&A. I don't see any questions in the Q&A. Feel free to put it. But what we'll do is, I don't know if we can open it up for discussions. We could spend 5 to 10 minutes on discussions because we see that most people are still there, and great to see the audience. Thank you very much for being around, hearing so much. And yeah, we'll just open it up for discussions. Kavi, can you set it up for opening it up, or? Yep. We just doing the settings to ensure that everyone can.
Yep, I've enabled mic.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, anyone would like to ask any questions, discuss? Yeah, I think you can enable the video also, Kavi, if you want to. Yeah.
Okay.
Those who want to. Yeah, so anyone wants to discuss, join the conversation, ask a few questions to the panelists, feel free.
So let me start with the question. It's open to both the panelists, anyone. There is a saying talk that, oh, AI is going to come and take all the finance job. Is it going to happen?
So
any thoughts, inputs?
Because
it's already started happening.
It
started happening in some of the other areas, but that's been saying that AI is going to replace at least the low-end finance job are going to be replaced by AI. There is a fear. There's been discussion. Is it true?
In my honest opinion, it may not eliminate all the requirements of finance individuals, but it may take away some part of it. For example, now whatever you can automate, you will automate, and you will bring in the AI and an ML and everything. But again, it needs sanity check. Again, it needs hygiene check. So maybe, you know, what two individuals did in the past now may not, those two individuals may not be required. Maybe it will be only one individual will be required.
Yeah.
To just manage the data and just make sure that everything is happening the way it should be.
Yeah.
But it will definitely take away some of the low end jobs for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
I think
think that's
more
a
important.
guarantee.
It's more important. We have to reskill ourselves, learn the AI, work with that. Yeah. Try to make smarter decisions. Say SJ, yeah, sorry, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just want to say my prediction would be that yes, you guys are completely right that the low-level jobs, they'll go away. Even some of the mid-level jobs that used to be complex, AI and ML will figure things out. Like things like consolidation across multiple entities is quite complex these days. Some companies struggle even when they implement a fairly expensive solution. There are always things that the program cannot deal with, like small spelling errors in an account in a subsidiary. That chokes up the system. AI, ML, they can figure all that out. Does that mean we're going to lose our jobs? Like a lot of the finance people will lose our jobs? Well, I think we just need to adapt. We're going to collect way more data as we go on, like just not in finance, but as a society as a whole, the amount of data that gets collected is going to just keep growing and become exponential, meaning that there's more we can do with that data. And as the systems become better at generating more reports and more insights, there's going to be more work for CFOs to decide what to do based on that data. So I see a big shift in finance where we're going to be more users of the data rather than the compilers of reports and analysis. And our education system may need to change. Our CPA will probably need to change to adapt to that reality.
I agree. Yeah, it's a very valid point. Yeah.
Well said. I completely agree.
So George, if I can add there around the data, you know, the data used to be the oil for an organization in the past, but now it's become the oxygen. So if you don't know, if you don't have the right data, you know, your organization is going to go, you know, bust, because I think that's the new trend, and the data is the oxygen these days. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Aju. By the way, Aju is the CEO of a professional services company in UK, and that was his thought. So I think we're all in agreement there that you know, data has moved from oil to oxygen, and we don't know, and we don't know where it's going to go from there, but we know it's important. So I think we have reached our 1 hour planned time for this. Are there any more questions? If there is any, you could put it in the Q&A or you know, even the chat. But yeah, since there aren't any, we will sign off. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone. It was really insightful, really useful. We also learned a lot from here. And yeah, signing off. Is there anything else you'd like to say? All
Just
right.
want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.